Hey friends. I had a flash today of some insight related to what I spoke about yesterday. Because yesterday I talked about how it's all self-acceptance, right? I had seen this quote by Jack Cornfield in the morning where he said, much of spiritual work is self-acceptance, maybe all of it. And I had that that sentence sparked a bunch of thoughts to kind of coalesce, all of which had been kind of kicking around for a few days, but sometimes it just takes the right catalyst. And so if you didn't see that post, you can go and check that out. It's called It's All in parenthesis, Self-Acceptance. But what I kind of added to that today, what came through as a kind of next step of that is that, I used to work with a teacher who came from the Advaita Vedanta tradition of non-dual spirituality, and is an acting teacher, and he broke down acting technique into psychological components, psychological elements, all of which are operative within the realm of consciousness. And so going directly to non-dual consciousness as a regular part of the practice was a really good way to keep that training. It felt like a really good container for that kind of intense psychological work. And in that training, he talked about in Advaita the self with a capital S is what we call consciousness itself. The self, and this sort of makes sense from the point of view of a tradition that is continually immersing us in the experience of awareness in and of itself, the feeling of consciousness, the experience of consciousness in and of itself, which of course is it's almost like undifferentiated subjectivity, the feeling of being an I, the feeling of being a conscious entity. I can see through my conditioning all the way down to the level of all experiences, however gross or subtle. But ultimately, there's this void. There's this consciousness, this light, this something emanating, which is the experiencer, the witness of everything that's happening. And that in Advaita is called the self. So and it is not different from the entire universe, which ultimately unites all individuals. All separate selves are ultimately united in the body of the ultimate self. And adding that conception of self to the notion of self-acceptance sort of infinitely extends the meaning of self-acceptance in, I think, a kind of inspiring way, because we of course can talk about self-acceptance from the point of view of me, the individual, my experiences, my background, who I am in the world. That's extremely important. That's vital work in the spiritual process, on a spiritual path. But there's also this other level of self, which I think if we're willing to to go there, then we can truly experience, truly feel that everything we are being asked to accept, everything, any transformation we may be called upon to make, any growth, expansion, evolution we may be called upon to do, is ultimately an acceptance of our self with a capital S, larger self. And it's like there may be a lot of personal content there that we have to maybe kind of get through initially, because the individual self takes on a lot of programming. But I think tying self-acceptance, the notion of self-acceptance, to this concept of the ultimate self is a really nice way to couch the work. Because now there's no differentiation between accepting my personal stuff that's here, whether it's programming that I'd like to change, dissolve, habits that I'd like to break, that I'd like to replace with new habits, or whether it's my relationship to the world, whether it's something in the world that I have to accept, and or so many of us desire change in the world. We want to see the world be different than it is. I certainly do. I certainly look at the world and think, wow, we got some work to do. But accepting that work, the first step in that work is self-acceptance. In other words, accepting what is. Like I said yesterday, you might think if you have tension in your body that the thing to do is to stretch your body to get rid of the tension, but that's not how it works. The thing we do, even if we are actively stretching, and this happens unconsciously until we become conscious of it, but the act of stretching or performing some physically therapeutic healing action is ultimately only effective because our consciousness comes in contact with the barrier. Our consciousness comes in contact with the resistance. And if we really are serious about getting through the resistance, of dissolving the resistance, then we learn quickly, we don't just push through it, we actually have to feel it. The more fully we can feel something, the more fully we receive what's there, the more easily and healthily we can then move past it. Why should that be any different for the world? Why do we have to start our work in the world by rejecting the world and then seeing what we need to, how we want to fix it? That doesn't seem like it's, we wouldn't advocate that approach in our body if we're coming from this place that I'm talking about. So extending that self-acceptance to a larger context feels key, feels helpful for me to frame how I perceive my responsibilities in my work. That's what I got today, folks. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. I'll see you tomorrow.